of the show, our three questions that
with Sugar Fix in Chicago with Dr. Jessica Emery. So thank you so much for jumping on.
I mean, I'm still going to work on it, but yeah.
And then right away, as soon as that first thing comes out, they sign up for it.
Pleasure having Dr. Anissa Holmes on our podcast today. She does such wonderful work from Delivering the Wow and how she helps dentists in improving their systems and helping them streamline their processes within their practice. Delivering the Wow is dentistry's #1 practice growth and marketing program that she has created to help dentists grow within their practices and building an impact for others. If you want to visit Dr. Anissa on her website at deliveringthewow.com, great. Hello and welcome to Dental Tech Chat. I am your host, Allie, and today I have the pleasure to introduce to you the one and only Dr. Anissa Holmes, and she is also known from her amazing podcast, Delivering Wow. So I'm such a pleasure to have you here today, and it's such an honor. I know you have such incredible, amazing things you want to share with us today about dental tech, and I can't wait to hear all about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining in this morning. I'm so glad to have you here, and I want to kind of get started off with, we know that a lot of things have been crazy going on, with COVID and all these crazy things with not being able to travel. And I know you're a speaker and you get to go all around the world. So I really just kind of wanted to ask a little bit before we jump into our 3 key questions, kind of share with our listeners all about like what actually drives your passion and what you've been doing lately with everything going on.
Awesome. Absolutely. So I am a real dentist who's been in the trenches. I graduated from Alabama about 22 years ago. And what's really interesting is that when I first came out of school, I wanted to have a practice that was going to be successful, change lives, do great dentistry. And so from there, I had to figure out like how to build my practice.
Yeah.
And so from there, I started looking at digital marketing. I started looking at how do you build a strong culture and putting in great systems. And that kind of led to where I am today. And so I started a podcast. I have a book. And now we actually have programs for practice growth, coaching programs and marketing programs. So it's been an amazing journey. What fuels me is honestly just being able to connect with colleagues, being able to see their passions come to life, see them get more time freedom, build their practice of their dreams. That's really what I'm all about. It's all about building that impact for others. So absolutely super excited to be here.
Yeah, it's so great to see all the work you've already been doing with your colleagues. And like you said, like, it's just incredible, that networking connection. I can just see like you've been using these platforms and really helping everybody drive to make their best benefit and growing their practices. So like you said, I mean, using platforms like, again, Facebook, your podcast, your book, it's been such a great tool. And I'm really glad that you can share that here with our listeners. And also, people can reach out if they ever need any help in those areas, because of course it definitely takes a good person that kind of knows and been around and how to connect everybody. So that's really great to hear. I'm happy that things have been taking off for you. It has been so cool to see how you said how your journey started to where you are now. So, all right. Well, I would like to ask you my first question, which is the diamond in the rough. So this is a product that you're using that maybe not everybody knows about, and you'd like to share with us that it's been a big advantage in your practice.
Right. So I can tell you one thing that has been huge for us is actually using Asana. Okay. So many people have heard of Asana, most dentists have not. And so how we're utilizing Asana is actually to have accountability in our practice. Also to be able to have the ability to increase revenue and production. And so how we're using Asana multiple ways. Number one, we are using it weekly. So we have a weekly, what we call a level 10 meeting. I'm actually an EOS implementer.
Yes.
And so how it works with a level 10 meeting is that you're coming in every week and you're working with your team. You're saying, tell me your personal and professional best. From there, you have the ability, and it's all in a checklist where you're looking at your scorecard. So you're able to look at your numbers. So what was your production and your collection, all of your different numbers for the week? What was your accounts receivable? How many patients did not get rescheduled? And so it's putting that accountability. It also allows us to look at, again, using Asana, what are the things that we want to actually get done within the next 90 days? And so those are going to be rocks. So maybe it's going to be within the next 90 days. We want to be able to start closing 3 $10,000 cases. That's going to be
Yes.
the goal, for example, of the treatment coordinator, or for the person up front. I want to make sure that I'm consistent with a marketing campaign. So it allows us to do that. It allows us to be able to actually schedule tasks out. So say, for example, you're looking at a project that you're wanting to do. Maybe it's going to be a clothing drive, or maybe you want to develop a new website, or maybe you want to create a new start doing new training for your team. And so now you can go ahead and even map it out, put deadlines, put who's going to be responsible for it, and actually communicate within the actual, what we call card, so that now there's consistency. What's really cool, this is so amazing, is that the doctor can be literally on vacation with their family, and they can have their office manager, their team lead, who's now leading. And so they're seeing what's happening in their business, but you're not having to micromanage. You're seeing that things are being done. We also manage our bills within Asana for the practice, so I can see what bills are coming, so you can look at cash flow. There's so much that I can go on. Like, I could do a whole day talking about Asana, but absolutely, that's a tool that once implemented correctly, you're able to really transform your practice, increasing revenue, and also, again, accountability, keeping your team accountable, and having amazing communication. Yeah.
I mean, this tool sounds like, I think everyone should start implementing it right away. It's kind of got all the works, right? It's got all the hats kind of covered, and everyone's not having to worry about, like you said, if you're not in the office, your dentist right there, you can just start checking on that platform. That has got to be an effective tool right off the bat. Like you said, the implementation, did that take a lot to even do for you guys, or has it been really kind of an okay process? Is it a little bit, kind of maybe figuring out the tweaks of it? But once you got it down, I'm sure, like you're just saying right now, it's already been such incredible improvement. And it just keeps going.
Absolutely. So for us, how it started for me within my practice was, I was looking at, and a lot of times you get to this point where, you find a lot of dentists and they kind of figure out, they wing it, how do we get to creating our first $500,000, our first $1 million in practice?
Right.
And for me, I wanted to figure out, like, how do businesses, including my own, break the ceiling from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 1.8 million to 4. And so I actually sought out myself. I love coaches. I love getting mentors. And I sought out someone who was actually an expert in scaling businesses. And so I actually worked with him, learned about the tool. And from there, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then I started to implement it in my own practice, and brainstorm, how can we use this to have accountability? Anything that's slipping through the cracks, now you have a system. So how can we make sure that bills are paid on time? And again, what's really cool is that you can have your team member upload a bill. So maybe it's the power bill, and maybe you're supposed to pay the power bill, or maybe it's paying an associate, right? And so they're now uploading the PDF of the day sheet, and so for me, it was just like figuring out, what are all of the things that we want to, what are all of the systems, whether it's going to be payroll, cash flow, projects. And then now we started, like, within me and my own practice, and again, now creating it for the practices that we work with. These are the ways that we can use it. And then we started teaching how to use it. And then we started creating templates. So now people can just kind of import in the templates, so that now it's really super simple for them. Even like a marketing, monthly marketing content calendar.
Oh, great.
Upload it, which is cool. So now the team just sees what they must do every single day, and it can be kind of assigned to a particular team member. So it's, as we all know, like, we learn a tool and then we put our creativity to it.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of goes from there. But it's really simple and easy to learn. Really, really great tool to use.
Yeah, it seems like it's streamlined a lot of processes within your practice for you. And it's very, as you're saying, like, is it like very versatile and customizable? Like you're saying, you just came up with those templates and you just pre-upload right into those. That's great.
Absolutely.
And is there also, I just want to ask for our listeners, is there anything like with the communication device in there? Like, say, you said, like, send any messages through this, or I just want to double check. That's great.
So absolutely. So you can communicate. So for example, if I have, maybe it's a marketing, we say, well, we want to do, it's going to be Christmas time, and we're going to do a canned food drive, or we're going to do, and so you can have a lead person on your team who's going to own that task. Maybe they're working with other team members on that particular project. I can be a visualizer on that project if I choose to be, right? The doctor doesn't have to be. And so now I can be notified either through email, or when I log in based on my settings and my preferences, I can be emailed again. Or maybe it's my office manager. Maybe I'm not being emailed as a doctor, but maybe my office manager, anytime I put something in there, she's getting emailed. So now she's giving that notification that she can log in and go ahead and take action right away. So that's also part of it, which is really, really cool.
I just feel like that's just such a great task manager as well. Like you're saying, it doesn't make sure everyone's on their mark and you know what you need to get done. So like that is going to be above and beyond. I'm going to make sure I put all that in the bio information down below and really make sure people can connect and start using that tool. Because that is something that if you're not using it, like a lot of people have, like I've heard, you know, of course, of other softwares, but this just really, I think, has them all covered. It has every base, as you explained. So really thanks for explaining that in more depth, because I've heard about it, but it's great to hear now about the messaging component and the task component, because that's not really often talked about, but that's got to be huge.
Yeah,
and getting things done. So that's such a great benefit. So thank you for sharing. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So going to my second, which is my favorite question of my podcast. So this is going to be our no risk, no reward. So this is something that you bought that was definitely like, you know, you're not sure you're going to get, but when you do get it, it's been a big payoff for you in your practice.
Interesting. So I think what's been pretty amazing in my practice in terms of tech has actually been probably our digital scanners.
Yeah.
And so we actually have two. So we actually have a Trios and we have an iTero. And not going to a specific brand, it could be any one of them.
They're a hot item, they're working.
Yeah. But what's been really great about the scanners is allowing for efficiency. And efficiency is something that's very important to me, as well as looking at how can we keep our profit margins as high as we can. And so as we start looking at all of the supplies that go into and shipping costs that go into taking an impression, the ability to be able to have that scan is super efficient. It also increases the quality of what we're able to put out. I mean, obviously dentists know, hopefully, you know, everybody's using scanners, but most are not, right? But for me, I can tell you that's been great for efficiency. What's also been great as well is training my team and taking the time to train my team. Interestingly, I don't even know how to use the scanner. I have never scanned before. So like, I like to be transparent with all of the doctors that I work with and all of the doctors that I coach. And a lot of times, like, again, doctors think they need to know how to do everything. And I'm like, you know, so my entire team was trained. And the reason why I didn't learn is because I don't want to do it. That's going to be my team's job, because I want to be in the other room prepping another patient, or I want to be, you know, doing something that's going to be something that my team cannot do, right? Maybe having a conversation with a patient. And so for me, it's like, well, what happens if that team member leaves? Well, then I'll get support on and they'll train the next person. And so that's how you build an efficiency. So interestingly, like my leadership style is really, I love it because it's all about delegation and training and elevating up our teams. And that's how we can, again, increase our efficiency, increase our cash flow, increase our happiness, that we're not stressed and overwhelmed trying to do everything. But yeah, I would say definitely just bringing in digital technology has been great. I mean, of course, the digital x-rays, like all of that stuff, but anything that we can do to bring in efficiency inside of our practice, I think is going to be kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think you hit that one on the head right on the nail, because, you know, you're saying overall, like a lot of dentists, they want to do it all. You know, you got to sometimes learn to let go of the reins. And that's why I really love that your leadership style when you go to train, and I hear that a lot, is, you know, delegation. You said that. It's like, I wish so many people could underline and highlight that, because it's so big. It really does help with the benefits and efficiency within an office. Sometimes you got to know where your strengths are lying within your team, and you got to use those so you can use your strengths and implement them, so it all works together. Because you can't hold it all in. It's like, sometimes I see some dentists and they're just so stressed out, and I'm like, delegate. Because, you know, I've been listening to a lot of dentists, and it is like very overwhelming right now, because they're like, oh, well, how do I get this and this done? It's like, you got to start getting those checklists. You got to start somewhere. Because even with the social media era, it's slow, and you want new patients, you got to get in there and start marketing. And it's really scary to do if, you know, you're not really tech savvy, but find someone, like you said, get the support and go run with it, get it done. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's really great that you're like really on top of that and helping more dentists realize that it can be a pressure that can be relieved.
No, it can always be relieved. And it's not just in dentistry. And like I said, for me, it's like one of the concepts that we teach as EOS implementers is this process of delegate and elevate. And like, if I can share this with the listeners, I know this is a tech talk, but like, I love to help colleagues in any way that I can. And so, for me, there's this always like this box, and at the top, there's things that you love to do that you're good at, things that you like to do that you're good at, and then below the line are things that you don't like to do, but you're good at, and you don't like to do and you're not good at. And so what we want to do is really look at what are all of the things that we love to do and are good at. And so it's going, hopefully it's the dentistry that we love to do and we're good at, right? But maybe it's marketing. So some dentists, they love to do Facebook Lives. Some don't, right? Marketing has to be done. So if you don't like to do it and you're not good at it, or even if you like to do it, but you don't have the time, you just need to delegate that to someone else. And then now what happens is that instead of having, like I talk about a lot with our clients, like you have a table, like a big dining room table, and I'm trying to pick it up by myself and I'm trying to walk over there by myself. It is so heavy, right? I can get my office manager, I'm like, this is heavy, come and help me. And we pick it up and we're like, it's so heavy, right? But if we have everybody on the team picking up a little corner, we're like moving over there fast, right? And so when you are trying to do the dentistry and trying to like manage systems and make sure your accounts receivable is on point, make sure unscheduled patients are rescheduled, blah, 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 it's crazy. And so it's really important that you understand that you've got to have great people, you've got to invest in their training, you've got to give them the tools, put in the systems. Like I said, Asana is just one of them. There are lots of things that you can do. And now you can have that peace of mind, right? That you can build a practice of your dreams because now you've got the right people all rowing in the same direction.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I could not agree more better than that. It's like fantastic that you understand those inlines because a lot of people do. They have that, like you said, you got to know what you're good at, why you're doing it, and break that down because, you can get your weaknesses brought up to strengths, but it just takes time. And, know where your strengths lie, but bring on people to make the task easier. Don't have to do with it all. So absolutely, I agree completely with you. And I think that's really wonderful. Like you said, that metaphor, the table, we could all think of it every day like that. It'd be a lot easier to start delegating.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because you don't think about the pressure until it's like all on you. And then you're just like, well, I can just handle it. But sometimes it's just too hard to handle it all on your own. Because then you forget certain things. So yeah. Really great to hear about that. So thanks for sharing that with us, and even implements to everything else too, like along with your equipment, like you're saying, and tools that can streamline our process and be helpful within the practice. So great. And this brings me to the flop. So the flop is the item that you thought you were going to use quite a lot, but unfortunately it just did not turn out to be what you thought it was. And you just don't use it as much as you thought. So is there anything like that? And it doesn't have to be tech, but if it is, that's great. But we like just to hear anyone's flop.
Wow. I have a lot of flops.
It does happen sometimes, unfortunately.
Yeah. You know what? I have flops when and actually it's so interesting because I don't see things as flops. I see things as opportunities to learn and say, I tried that. And so I'll just talk about marketing, for example. So I can tell you, I have tried lots of different things for marketing. I have tried in the past mailers. I have tried Google ads. I've tried Facebook ads. I've tried like all types of marketing, right? And so it's so interesting. I was just talking to a doctor just a while ago, and she's a startup and she's doing Facebook, and she's like, should I implement Google ads, right?
Yeah.
And so I said, well, you know what? And she said, this is what it's going to cost me per month. And I said, okay, so this is the thing. If it's going to cost you $3,000 per month and you have the right verbal skills and phone skills, then that's not going to be a flop, right?
Right.
If you don't have the verbal skills, then it's not going to work, but you don't know until you try. And so for me, like I've tried a lot of things that worked better than others. And so the flop for me is understanding, well, that didn't work. So I haven't found yet what needs to work. And so for me, that's why like a lot of people know me for Facebook marketing. That was my thing that I figured out after testing so many other things, right? So like I spent $5,000 once in an ad for an airline, right?
Oh, girl,
because I was just like, well, maybe that'll work, right?
You never know.
A big flop. That was a big flop.
Yeah, that happens. We know the bad scratch offs.
Yeah, and that was a big flop. And but finalizing, or understanding again, power of social media marketing, like that's been huge for me. because that's, that was a sweet spot when I was like, crap, we can spend $500 a month on Facebook ads with the right strategy, and we can get, 50 patients a month. Like that was a big thing that grew my practice, but like, that wasn't the first thing that I was doing. I was doing yellow pages, I was doing everything else. So for me, it's like, again, it's just always like, be willing to try something, and just, for me, like on Colby, I'm like a 8 quick start. So like what that means is like, I'm okay to fail.
Yes.
And the most successful dentists, the most successful people are people that are okay with flopping, because we realize that like, we're going to flop fast, and then we're going to keep going until we figure out what works. Right. And so it could be like, well, I'm going to take this course for veneers, and you go to that course and you're like, it was good, but I didn't get exactly what I need. Well, instead of getting frustrated about it, I'm like, okay, well, let me find the next course, but maybe let me do better due diligence this time. And let me, like, what did I do wrong that I could do better? Or, well, let me go and find people who are doing great veneers, and let me just contact them and find out who trained them. So now I have the shortcut, right? So, so like, that's kind of, again, like, I know we're talking about tech and things like that, but like, if I can like just help people to understand that it's okay to fail, it's okay to flop, but just flop fast and be willing to take action, because so many people's paralysis by analysis and are like, well, what course should I take? Well, I can't figure out what course, or what marketing should I do? And like, next year they're in regret because they're still asking the same question and they've done nothing. If you would have just failed fast, then you'd be on to the next thing that actually works, and you'd be getting results. So hopefully that answers your question.
No, it sure does. I think you've hit on some fantastic points here and giving us some great advice, because I think too, like, being a dentist, it is okay to take some, like, and it goes with all of my questions, really, like being okay with change. And you hit on like the most important part to me is strategy. When it comes to anything, you got to be okay, like you said, and maybe fall down, but you have to know, like in your guys' industry, got to be willing to get back up. Take the course, because if you keep holding back, or like you're saying with your marketing, you're worried that you don't know what to say. It's all about, just being yourself, being authentic, and just going for it. You know where your strengths are and you know where your weaknesses are. So work on your strengths first, get your confidence. And I've seen you've done that. I mean, throughout, I think, everything you've been doing, you really just know how to connect and chat with people, and your dentistry speaks for itself. And your book and your podcast, I am so excited to read your book about delivering the wow. And I'm going to have that linked below for our listeners to read too as well. But honestly, it was so great to hear your advice on that, because it just really does take you the extra mile when you're just not afraid to sometimes try something new. Like you said, the flop can be always a pro and a con, but you got to let it take you far.
Absolutely.
Just hear your favorite piece of technology and what you kind of like use the most at your practice.
Wow. So technology, definitely, we are using Asana.
Got it.
Another tool that we use as well is we actually use a mobile app called Voxer.
Okay.
And so Voxer is a simple tool that you can put on your phone, and it allows for voice texting.
Oh yeah.
And it allows for uploading of photos. And so we use that. I use that to communicate with my office manager. Again, I can be out speaking, cool. I can be traveling. And so we have that ability to just voice message. So, if there's something urgent, and she'd be like, Doc, remember that you have to like go into Asana today and do payroll today.
Mm-hmm. Don't forget, you got a lot on your plate. That's like, important.
So her role is, her role, if you're doing things the right way, you have an office manager that keeps you in check and like it holds you accountable and does like make sure that you're okay. Like that's totally office manager, right? So Voxer's great. We also use it, interestingly. So we have a team that we use. So whenever we catch something great happening in our practice, we'll snap photos of it. Anybody on the team, they can put it into this same chat. And we actually have somebody who's not in our practice that takes our social media photos and they go ahead and post them for us and schedule them out for us. So we're able to actually communicate with team members. We actually have virtual assistants that help us with graphics and some other things in our practice. So we're able to communicate with our team members that are not in office. So that's another really cool tool, Voxer.
Yeah, it sounds like a really neat, like in a sense, almost like walkie-talkie on cell phone.
Yeah.
It's literally got to be what it is. I've heard about it, but like now you saying how you've implemented that, that's got to be working wonderful. Because I always have a lot of dentists like, I really got to get a watch so I can text, but man, talk to text is way quicker.
Yeah.
And I like that it saves the thing too, right? So until you open it, then you can hear it.
Yeah,
You can go back and play it, right?
Yeah, you can. You can
That's
also
nice.
star it. So there are things that you're like, oh my gosh, I want to be able to, you can create like a starred folder as well.
Oh,
so
that's
like,
good to hear. Yeah, because I'm sure, you know, sometimes things get mixed up. So I'd be immediately, like if it's urgent stuff too, I'd be like, okay, star. Because there's also like, because I also help with social media tasks. So yeah, there's certain things where it's like, hey, we have an upcoming event, which unfortunately right now with things being a little slower, it's not as urgent, but you know, keeping them in line to be ready for deadlines is important. And that's really good to hear that that Voxer tool can have that, because that was not something I knew about. So
absolutely.
well, thank you for all of your fantastic advice here today on our show and explaining some really great pieces of technologically tools you've been using in your practice, along with different softwares and things you've been using to keep everyone task focused and getting really great results out of those. So I'm really excited for our listeners to hear all about it so they can start implementing those tools into their practices. And I hopefully can hear some really cool stories about them using them.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you again for being on our show today on Dental Tech Chat. I cannot wait to have our listeners hear all about your advice, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Awesome. You too. Take care. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Bye. It was so wonderful having Dr. Anissa Holmes on our podcast today. She went over some great pieces of technology and how she's implemented them into her practice and how much it has really benefited and paid off in her practice. She went over a really cool piece of software called Asana, how it helps with more task management within your practice. She also goes over with us how she's using scanners in her practice and how they really helped streamline a process and getting more patient acceptance and understanding in her practice. Overall, it was so wonderful having her on our podcast here today. If you want to connect with Anissa Holmes on her website at deliveringthewow.com, or also checking her out on her social media handles on Instagram and Facebook at deliveringthewow.dental. Again, if you'd like to visit her on her website, deliveringthewow.com, you can also check out her podcast and her new book that she has released. Make sure you guys go visit her. She is such a kind and caring dentist, and we hope that you guys enjoyed this podcast. And if you guys want to see more videos like this one, please check us out over on our YouTube page and make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't miss out on any new episodes that we post. Thank you guys for supporting Dental Tech Chat here on our podcast and for watching us wherever you listen. We hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and thank you for watching.